Hey guys, just as an update before we start this episode, that my microphone at some parts might sound a little quiet and Nate sounds loud. Nate did most of the talking throughout this episode, but I might sound a little quiet here and there. Just know that going forward that will be addressed. I had a setting in my recording program that I needed to adjust, but I think it sounds okay for the most part. But in case anyone was wondering why it's quiet, yes, that will be addressed in the future, and yes, I know what the problem was. So thank you so much for listening to the premiere episode of Generation Zen. We have a great episode for you today. Nate was awesome. He's a great guy, and he has a lot of cool stories to share with you. So I hope you enjoyed this extra long episode of the premiere version of Generation Zen, and I'll see you guys soon. It's the Generation Zen Podcast, the very first episode of the show, and I am so excited to have my good buddy that I've known for a number of years now, Nate Moser. What's going on, Nate?
Hey, everybody. Hey, it's, I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's Saturday. It's always a good day when it's a Saturday.
Saturdays, man.
Yeah, Saturdays.
That's where it's at.
Yep, Saturdays.
No.
What was that episode of Dexter's Lab? Like Saturdays are like for dads with cars or something like that. Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't know if I remember. I loved that show as a kid, but
Dude,
I don't remember that.
There was like a meme online that I saw, and it's like an account on Twitter, and every Saturday they post that clip.
Ah, yes. Saturdays are made for dads and dad's car.
Whenever I think of Dexter's Laboratory, I think of Mandar. I think his name is Mandar.
Oh yeah,
where
man.
he would always go ha 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 ha. You know.
What a good show, man.
It was
Cartoons
it was
were so
great.
amazing.
That was Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. Like I was into Cartoon Network before Nickelodeon, but both stations. You know, it's a shame because I feel like they're not really, as popular as they once were. And it's kind of tough too. But the shows back then were so classic.
Well, that's the thing is like the shows now, like they've gone so downhill. I mean, like I don't even know what's airing now because they went from the original Teen Titans, which was one of the best superhero cartoons ever made, and then they went from that to Teen Titans Go. Like what? Like I don't understand the whole mindset of kids these days can't handle like quote unquote mature content because I don't know. I watched Teen Titans back when I was like 8 or 9, and I think I turned out pretty good. And obviously, you turned out pretty good, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and that was the thing too is there were a lot of shows. Like you see, like they're trying to bring back the older generation too, because I mean, like the Powerpuff Girls, for example, they brought back that show again. Like and that's just one example off the top of my head. There were other examples too of shows that I think Invader Zim, didn't they bring that back? It's on like Netflix or something.
They did, and they brought it back as a movie. Yeah.
They're bringing shows back. I think there was talk that they might bring Hey Arnold back. They're bringing all these shows back that like our generation would watch when we were younger, and it's almost like they feel like they have to go back to older ideas. That kind of sucks. It sucks that they can't, there's nothing that can attract the new generation. I guess what is it, Generation Z now?
Generation Z / millennial generation. But why are we running out of ideas for creative content? Like I feel like now we're just rehashing things or doing nostalgia. Like what? Why can't we come up with something new? We came up with stuff new back in like 2000 through 2007, and it was all excellent. And now it's just like, here's a reboot of, Kim Possible movie that's in live action. Here's a Hey Arnold movie, all these years later. It's like, guys, why don't we come up with a real, new original story and maybe see if that works? Because whatever they're doing right now is not working.
And I think they're also not just sticking with cartoons either. Like I think they're bringing like Drake and Josh back.
No
You know,
way.
like
Are they really?
I think I saw that they were talking about it.
Wow.
But
Don't
even
ruin a classic. Why ruin a classic?
I mean, I loved that show as a kid so much. I was so sad when it was over with,
Oh,
but
me
then
too.
Miranda Cosgrove had to go do iCarly and
Yeah,
stuff.
well, she
I
wanted
mean,
her
that
own
was
show. Yeah, she wanted her own show
yeah.
really badly, which was part of
You
it.
never hear about her anymore either. Like she
No.
just kind of disappeared.
No, I mean Drake Bell. I remember back in school when if you remember like Anthony Russo, Chris Bellato, and those guys, they
Yeah.
saw Drake Bell live in concert, and it was like the most depressing thing they said because the guy is just like. He hasn't found a gig in like so many years, and he's just.
I heard he's like kind of broke now.
Yeah, and it's really sad because he did not manage his money well, which sucks. But you don't hear
He was
from
the
Miranda.
coolest guy. I think he was the coolest guy, like in Drake and Josh.
He was, and then apparently he was really cool even when they saw him in concert. Like he was, they were taking pictures of everyone. He was a really nice guy. They actually got an interview with him, which was really cool. So. Yeah, it's just a shame, man. What's going on?
You know what, and he's
him.
just one example of a lot of guys in Hollywood where you're on top one moment, but it's such a cutthroat business, that you're on top one moment and then the next moment you're at the bottom, and that's why you gotta be able to manage your assets and stuff like that, because who knows how tough it's gonna be for you to get that next gig.
Yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at like even in obviously the professional sports market as well, like Allen Iverson, that guy had to have his Reebok contract where he could cash out until he's like 50 or something like that because he was just so bad with his money that Reebok was able to like cut him a deal and say, all right, we're going to set up X amount of money because you spent it all and you can't even touch it until you're 50. So it's just a shame. And what's going on with Drake Bell and what happened to Josh too? Isn't he like he got thinner? He got way thinner.
He lost a lot of weight, and I was super happy for him that he was able to do that. He was on a show that I never watched. I forgot what station it was on. It might have been Fox, but he was on a show. Wasn't he on a show with John Stamos?
Oh, I have no idea. Was he really?
This was a few years ago. I think it only lasted like 1 or 2 seasons, and then that show like got canceled. It's just like.
Wow.
But it's crazy how they could be so popular and then they just don't hear about them anymore.
I know, man. It's really sad.
And one more point I wanted to make, stick it because you mentioned the professional sports aspect of it. That's why you see so many players cashing in when they do, when they're in their prime, and you have these $100 million contracts, to some of these like franchise defining players, in football or hockey or basketball. That's why you have these massive contracts because who knows what the future is going to end up holding.
Oh yeah.
One moment you're on top of the world, and the next moment, who knows, you might have to retire early. I mean, there's all that CTE stuff that's going on in football, and some players want to retire early because of their injuries. And they want to make sure that they have a healthy future for themselves and their families. So they got to cash in, and that way their families, not only themselves, but their families are set for life. Because who knows what the future could hold. You got to make sure you have that financial stability.
Exactly, man. And not everyone, even in football, even with all this money, can really make it last for a long time. Because, you have these millions of dollars, but you are only playing. What's the average play time in the NFL? Isn't it only like 3 years, 4 years? It's really low.
Yeah, it's really low. I was super surprised at that too.
It's really low. So, and guys get cut all the time in non-guaranteed money. So, so it's really crazy. But anyway, that was a good little sidetrack introduction. So we are here with my good friend Nate, who we have a lot of great college stories that we're going to get into later. But Nate just got his first full-time job out of school, and now he lives in Washington, D.C., and this is one of the probably at most craziest moving stories I've ever heard in my life, and I would never be able to do this. So I have no idea how you were able to. So why don't you start from the beginning? When you found out the news that you got this job and it was time to start in 2 weeks from your hometown.
Yeah. So first of all, Justin, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's an honor to be your first host here, or your first guest here on the podcast.
Absolutely, dude. No, it's a
And
pleasure, man. Seriously.
so I guess we'll rewind back to, honestly, it was the day before Thanksgiving that I found out the news that I was getting this gig. I was auditing this class over at my local community college, and I was taking out camera equipment there. That was the main reason I was doing this. I was taking out camera equipment, and I was going to like the local high schools because I wanted to update my reel a little bit, because it had been about a year and a half since I had graduated from Oswego. And so I wanted to update things. I wanted to have some game highlights and stuff in there. So I was going to like local like high schools, and I was going, what is that? What was it? The Crow's Nest? What do you call it? We had it in Oswego where you would go up and like they would do the announcing there, like
press
the actual
box?
announcing. Yeah, well, it'd be I'm talking about like for like in the Oswego fields.
Oh, I thought we called it the press box. I could be
I
wrong.
thought it was the Skybox might be the name of it.
Skybox, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, but
press box.
I think
Press box. That's it.
you might know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. Where you
press
go on the
box.
roof. You would go on the roof.
Yep.
And you could get like, so I would go on the roof there. I was able to talk to a few people, and I would take out the tripod and the camera and everything, and I would just record like a half of a football game at a local high school, and then I would go back the next class and I would just edit a touchdown. If there was a sack, fumble, or something, whatever the case may be, I would just, I would find the important plays, and I would just try to put a little highlight package together just to kind of show, potential employers what I could do. So anyway, getting off of that tangent, I was in my local community college, and it was actually a day off. The guy canceled class for Thanksgiving. We were supposed to have class, so no one was really there. So I'm just like, whatever, like I had gotten a coffee or whatever, and I was just kind of chilling in the room. One of my classmates wanted to help him with like a project he was working on for outside of class. But anyway, my phone rings, and I see that it says Virginia. It's a Virginia number, and I'm immediately thinking that this is this job prospect. This is the station. And I had talked to my now boss. He had interviewed me. We had done a Skype interview in the previous like month. This all had kind of unfolded. And finally, like, it seemed really promising. But he's like, I got to interview, I think, one more candidate, and I'll get back to you. So I get the call, and I'm not able to take it like right away. So what I end up doing is, like, it was funny because I'm thinking it's got to be them. So I literally, after I was done helping my friend in my class out, I dropped everything I was doing and I went home because, class was canceled anyway. So I went home, and sure enough, like, I got home, they gave me a voicemail, and she said, we're sending you an email or whatever. And pretty much I got the job offer, and I went on my email, and there was the official job offer. So I accepted it and everything. And so this was the day before Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So
you accepted it the day before Thanksgiving, knowing that you'd be moving into another state.
So yeah, and I told pretty much nobody right that first day. I told my parents, obviously, and they were thrilled for me. And then I told my extended family when they came over the next day on Thanksgiving. So it was a little Thanksgiving surprise, to let my family know what was going on. They were all happy for me. But yeah, getting into the 2 weeks, because they kind of needed somebody right away at the station that I was in. For those who don't know, I got accepted as a production assistant, news production assistant at this station here in Virginia. And what ended up happening was I was able to delay things a little bit because they wanted me there like a week after Black Friday.
Yeah, like that was going to happen.
And it was like, that just would have been really hard to do. Like, I would have had no problems whatsoever doing that. It was just super, super tight with, the holidays were right around there. We just had Thanksgiving. I just found out, it's like you find out a little over a week. I did need a little bit more time. If I would have been able to pull it off, no question, I would have done it.
Right.
But
I still think even pulling it off
I-
in 2 weeks is insane, and you're going to get more into detail soon. But I even think that's really, really crazy.
I respect that
But
they
it's
need.
such
I
a great
respected.
story.
I respected the request that they needed me right away. But I was able to talk to my boss and HR, and I was like, "Hey, is it cool if we delay things a little bit?" So that's when the plan was that 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks after I accepted the job, which was, I believe, December 11th, that would be my first day. So as you alluded to earlier, this is the 2 week story of how I was able to go from, oh, yeah, I'm accepting the job, to walking in the first day and meeting people and getting ready to start my career path in the business. So do you want me to hop right in?
Well, yeah, because there's still other stuff in the story. You told me that you have to let everyone else know.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm gonna.
Yeah, because you moved. In case you said it or didn't, I forgot. But you're from Buffalo, New York. Which, if you guys don't know where Buffalo, New York is, that is not New York City. That is all the way up there, like
it's
near
it's on the
Niagara
other
Falls,
side.
where it drops down from Canada, right? Like in that region.
Yeah, my house, which is, I guess, technically more closer to Niagara Falls, New York, but we just do everything in Buffalo. And we just say we're from Buffalo, but I guess we are technically closer. The border is not that far away from my house.
Yeah, so you're moving all the way there to Virginia.
To put things in perspective, I think Toronto might be like about an hour and a half drive away from where I live.
Yeah, you live closer to Toronto than you do to New York City, even though you're
you take
in New York.
the Queen Elizabeth Way, or as we call it in Buffalo and Toronto, the QEW, but that highway through there. And so I mean, the total drive from Buffalo to Arlington, Virginia, DC area, it was about it was about 7 to 8 hours.
Holy mackerel.
Drive wise. But here's the thing, you could take a plane from DC, from Reagan Airport to the Buffalo Niagara Airport, and you could, not every flight's like this, but there's direct flights that they have, and it takes about an hour, maybe a little over an hour and a half at the most.
Which makes sense too, because when I had to go to Boston recently, I flew, and it that only took 2 hours as opposed to a 6-7 hour drive. But I mean, still a 1 hour flight from upstate New York to Virginia in an hour is fantastic.
Yeah, I really, but that was, that was the big road trip when we ended up taking everything down. But I can get to that, in a second. But but it's nice to have the direct hour flights, because you can go see family. I already have done that once since I've moved down here.
Yeah, you were home just last
for a
week.
weekend.
Yeah.
It was, and it was really cool too. It was really cool to catch up with everybody. I kind of felt, I told multiple people, I kind of felt like a band on a reunion tour. I'm going around to different places that I used to be at, and they're like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" I'd see old friends. I saw family. And it was exhausting too, though. I'm excited because I did the weekend because I don't have vacation time yet with my job.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna start getting it in another week or two, because it's something that you don't have access to vacation time until you're 3 months into the job.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're getting to that point, and then I'll be able to start taking days off. But I mean, I got up at 4 a.m. to take it. I got cleaned up. I called a cab. The cab took me to Reagan. I basically waited there for an hour and a half. I wanted to make sure I got there early enough. Took the plane over to I took the plane from Reagan to Buffalo, and then, I got home, made a quick breakfast with my parents, and then I started going around and seeing people. By the time I went to bed, I mean, I left my friend's house that night probably at 1:30 in the morning.
Wow,
so I was almost up for 24 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is really crazy. But go more into detail on what it was like to find a place to live. I mean, I can't believe you found a place to live in record time, and you showed me it's really nice. It's really nice. But living on an air mattress, though, dude, I don't know if I could do that for as long as you have. But I want you to get that into more detail.
Yeah, so one thing I'll do is I'll tell you about is just I'll try to do the Spark Notes version of just the 2 weeks getting down there. In the 2 week span of me finding out that I got the job, me going down to officially start my day, I had to I had an older car. I had a 2010 Pontiac Vibe, and it was having issues at the time. There were issues with the tires and everything. The air conditioner was kind of broken, so I was looking for a new car anyway. Well, when I got the new job, I figured it's time. I don't want to be driving a 10-year-old car with issues, around a new area. That's just ingredients for a disaster. So my dad and we ended up going to a local car dealership and ended up buying leasing a 2020 Hyundai Elantra. And I love this car. I love this car so much. It's heated seats. It's a really smooth drive. Everything about it, I can play, I can play, I can hook up Bluetooth with my phone and everything, but it's cool. So, but in that 2 week span, I bought a new car. I was able to, my parents helped me set up apartment. Like we went around different areas. I was in contact with my employers about potential like spots where to live, different places in Virginia or Maryland if I wanted to go to Maryland, or even in DC, although DC is expensive to live in there. So I was kind of told not to get in that area.
Right.
But basically I was able to, I think we ended up doing, I think the Tuesday, that day before my first day, I think we did like four apartment visits to see where. And so, but we did that week, like the week before, because that week, that I found out, it was, there was a week in between me finding out and me starting, me having to go down. So I got a new car. I set up appointments to look for apartments, like 4 at least. I think there might have been a couple others that we had to cancel just because I ended up finding my apartment the first day. But we set up like 4 to like 6 different apartment search places to find it, to take a tour and stuff. And I had to pack all my stuff, had to pack all my clothes, had to pack the basic essentials. I have to take, I got, Tylenol if I have a headache, toothbrush,
Yeah.
the toiletries, and I mean, it was really bringing more things that were like important to me, like the PlayStation and stuff like that. Those were more for like after I've been down here. That was for like the luxury move when my parents would come visit me the first time. But it was really pack your essentials and go down there just to, what you need to survive. And so, and just buy different things. We bought a ton of different things. One you alluded to is the air mattress. And we can talk about that specifically, but it just, and I want to take this time. I want to give credit to my parents too. Like I love them. They support me so much, and they helped me so much throughout this process of, we had meetings every morning, each day. It was, my dad would conduct them and he goes, okay, what do we have to accomplish today?
And that's what's really crazy about your story too, is because, when I got my job in Jersey, I didn't move for like a month and a half, a little bit longer than that. So like I didn't have those meetings. We just went when a weekend we were available. I think we made a lot of trips down here to bring some stuff, because I moved a lot of stuff from my house to here, and we bought stuff and things like that. Like we did a lot, and I'm grateful that we did that. But I couldn't imagine having like you wake up and then you have like almost like a business meeting. Like, all right, everyone, this is what we're gonna have to do for the day, and you have to get that stuff done. Like that's wild.
And that's what they were. They were business meetings, and they'd last about 20 to 30 minutes, because and we'd all sit at the family kitchen table, and it was just me and my dad would like assign us different things. Like one day my dad and I would go look at the Elantras, to make sure that that's the car I wanted to go with. And, meanwhile, my mom would be looking up, potential up, like living places, and if there would be a couple apartments to to take a look at when we would initially go down there to, settle in, and
Yeah,
it was
the fact that not only did you have to start a new job, not only did you have to find a place to live, but you also got a new car. It's like
that's the
everyone
thing.
was doing something. Every one of you guys was doing something today. There's no wasted time. That's crazy.
In the span of 2 weeks, I found out I got this job. We celebrated Thanksgiving. And then after that, I got myself a new car. I got myself an apartment, and I moved down from, like I said, it's like a 7-8 hour drive. And, that first week I was living in the hotel with my parents and stuff. And, eventually that the day before I started my job, I think the apartment that I'm currently living in now, which is where I currently am as we're talking. I think it was like the second apartment out of 4 for that day. So
Wow.
We spent all day apartment searching, looking at the different rooms. And that's the thing too, because I'm looking, and I'm trying to get a grasp of like, oh, well, I'm trying to imagine these rooms furnished, because that's the thing. When you look at an apartment and there's like nothing in it, you're just like, oh, like, you get this feeling like, oh, this doesn't really feel that homey to me, and you have to kind of picture in your head like, oh, well, this is where this couch would go. This is where the bedroom is. This is
Right.
what the kitchen would look like with stuff in it. Because when you're like apartment hunting and you're looking around in like an empty apartment, like it just doesn't have that homey feel to it. Like you gotta make it a home. And that was something that I had to try to fight, because I would like see apartments and it's like, well, this isn't furnished. And
Yeah, I had to do the same thing.
There's a colder aspect to it, when there's no furniture. And honestly, and this is probably a marketing technique that they do, but the second apartment out of the 4 was the only one where they showed me a furnished apartment.
Wow.
They showed me just an apartment. Yeah. Oh, hey, look, that is a great technique, because it makes you feel like you're at home. I mean, obviously it's not mine, but it makes you feel like, okay, like this, I feel at peace here with a coffee table. And, they had I think coffee cups and plates on the actual kitchen table. And it's like, you can picture yourself there, and you can picture yourself going through your days living there. And I think that's probably what sold me. And the one they showed me actually was a 2-bedroom apartment. The one that I have is 1 bedroom, but it was still, I mean, they said the difference was just 1 bedroom, but yeah, it was, I was sold. And I no doubt that was definitely, in my opinion, probably a technique that they use to probably help get people to rent out apartments. But yeah, they won me over. And I love my apartment.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I really like mine too, because it's important, because you're here so much. And for me, like, I like my area a lot because I'm in a very, like, I'm basically on a residential street, but like there's a very small kind of, I guess you call it complex, whatever, but there's only like 42 people or something in my building, so it's, nice and nice and small. But yeah, you got to make sure you like the place you like, because if you don't and you come home to like a complete pile of crap, I mean, there's nothing worse than that.
Yeah, you gotta like where you are too, and it helps too that I was able to get, first of all, I got a sofa chase, and I love this thing. I really do. It's a great couch. That was the one thing when my family was bringing things, like they brought a few lamps in, they brought family pictures that they put on different tables. When they were bringing different things, they were asking me too, like, oh, my mom sent me a ton of different furniture from Value City, and she goes, what do you like? And this sofa chase popped out to me, and I'm just picturing myself on the lay down part of that sofa chase, just watching television. Maybe I got a bag of snacks in my lap. I got one of my sparkling ice drinks, got them on the coffee table along with a coaster. You're all set. You're living in heaven.
Yeah, dude, you got to picture yourself watching, The Eagles won the Super Bowl again on that couch and being
Oh yeah,
comfortable, you know?
okay, alrighty. You
gotta
got yours.
remember that Nick Foles, fake out play.
Are they building his statue yet?
Dude, they should, man. They should.
That was a great story.
Oh my god! I mean, you remember dude? You remember how hype I was when we won that Super Bowl? Remember when we we're going on a little sidetrack though, because I do have it in our show notes. Do you remember when it was the first day we had to go back to school, and it was the conference championship game, and when we beat the Vikings and we absolutely destroyed them, and I was so hyped that like I think we got like a noise complaint, but I remember someone complaining and being like it's the first day. Like who's remember
what
that?
studying do you have to do?
Yeah, we were with
Furnace. That's not true because there's always professors that assign stuff. But I get what you're.
Yeah, it was like it's the first day. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, it was crazy.
I'm trying to remember. Were the Eagles the underdogs in that?
No, we were favorites to win that, but not by that much. Though I thought it was going to be much closer because the Vikings scored within the first 5 minutes of the game. And then we just shut them down afterwards, and they never scored again. And we won.
The Vikings
won
were on fire. That was the same year as the Minneapolis Miracle.
That was the same year that Stephon Diggs went for the touchdown. Yeah,
I just remember that. That was crazy.
That was one of the craziest plays. One of the best plays I've ever
Vikings Saints put on like the best playoff games. I swear.
Yeah. No, they do, man. They really do. But anyway, trying to throw in a little Eagles love in there. But yeah, man, you gotta picture yourself watching these games on that couch.
Yeah, and it's I've been watching a little XFL on there. I don't know if you've watched any of that.
I have not. I have no interest in it, to be honest with you, because the league is gonna fold very soon. I have a feel like.
I'm hoping not. Look, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's hard to argue with that considering you look at the American Alliance of Football last year, and that didn't even make it through a full season.
Yeah, nothing can compete against the NFL.
But they're not trying to compete. Like Vince McMahon, who's running this, he also runs WWE. His goal of doing this is they started the week after the Super Bowl. Their goal was, let's keep football going a little bit longer. Just because the Super Bowl's over doesn't mean that football has to end for the diehard football fans. And like I actually chose a team because DC has a team here. And so they have the DC Defenders. So I watched week 1. I watched a little bit of week 2. Week 3 they got destroyed, and I kind of shut it off because it was so lopsided. But they've been fun to watch. And they have certain elements that the NFL might, who knows, maybe one day will want to adopt. Like there's just some interesting aspects, ways that they make their league unique. And I think that's kind of cool. And it'll be interesting to see if the NFL kind of looks and says, well, hey, that's actually kind of a cool thing. Maybe we should consider that. Like when they review a play, the conversation between the official and the person actually reviewing the play, you hear the entire thing.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have a camera.
Wow.
They have a camera in there, and they'll show the guy watching the clip on the TV.
Wow.
And he'll be like, okay, yeah, I can see from my vantage point that this guy, that this isn't a touchdown. His foot was down before, whatever the call, whatever play they're trying to determine, you can hear that entire thing. And another thing that they have too that's kind of cool is their kickoffs are different. And it's one of those things where they'll kick the ball off to the other team. And both teams will line up, next to each other, but no one moves when they kick the ball off. They don't kick the ball off, they don't move to try to get the guy until after he catches the ball in his hands. And then everyone moves. The defenders try to defend. The other guys try to tackle the guy. They wait until the ball is in the guy's hands and he starts running back.
Dang. That's crazy.
They're trying to get rid of. There's no extra points either. You don't kick for them. You start from. It's kind of like a 2-point conversion in the NFL. There's like I don't remember the yard lines, but there's a yard line that you can start and go and try to go in for 1 point. There's a further line away from the end zone where you can go for 2 points, and the farthest you can go back, I think you can get 3 points. So
there's no
like
kickers. No kickers.
There's kickers for like field goals, but when it comes to extra points, they don't kick for those.
Wow.
You try. It's basically an extra point, but where you start on the yard line in comparison to the end zone, that decides how many points you get, and you can get up to 3. So there's 3 different places where you can go. You can go for 1, 2, or 3.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to check out a game because I to be honest with you, I've only seen this stuff on social media. Like when that one guy got like, didn't he get like punched or something like that? Like he got like hit bad. It was like the first like 5 minutes of one of the games. Like,
also interview people like after like a major play. And like after every major play, there'll be like some guy on the sideline being like, "Oh, why did that happen?" or something, And and JJ Watt like tweeted, he's like, "Oh, he goes, I could, I could never, basically implying like that, like that's hard to watch, And then I'm waiting for because I think there was like a scuffle, and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm waiting for like someone to drop an F-bomb or something on there, and sure enough, and the first game. They dropped an F-bomb, and the guy missed his cue to bleep it out, and so the word went through on TV.
Oh my god!
And it's just like, oh my god! And then I'm seeing Twitter reaction. Everybody's like, "This guy dropped an F-bomb. This is awesome!"
Yeah, it's such a this is it's gonna be done in a couple of years, man. There's no way it's gonna survive. But enjoy it while you can. We'll enjoy it while we can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we went off on a huge tangent there.
Dude, it's all good. Hey, you know what? It's all good. So so your sofa. So you're watching XFL football on that sofa that you took home. Do you finally have a bed?
I do.
He's got a bed! Finally! Dude, you didn't tell me you got a bed. Holy crap. Last time you told me you were still on that freaking air mattress.
Oh yeah, so to provide some context, one of the items that I got during that 2-week in between was buying an air mattress, and my aunt actually had an air mattress. When my grandpa was he was kind of declining, his health was kind of declining, my aunt would really take care of him. She got this air mattress so she could like sleep there at the same place as him because he was in assisted living, and so she loved that. Like she got so used to the air mattress that like she, after he had passed away, she brought the air mattress back to her house, and she actually was still sleeping on it. But
wow.
And then one of her cats popped it. But she had told me about, like this air mattress was really comfortable. You could sleep on this until you get an actual bed. And so that's what I did. I think there was a total, I think the first 6 weeks that I was here, I slept on an air mattress, and honestly, it was comfortable. It really was. And you got to make sure, because you have to find because you got to blow it up,
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that you find that perfect comfort level. But I swear I could feel like there was air probably slowly moving out of it, because then the next like a week after I would get into it, like then it would feel like, okay, well, this feels like some air's been let out of it, so there were some downsides to it. It was it was an air mattress,
Right.
you're just using this to get by until the actual bed comes. But yeah, and I gotta tell you, man, this bed that I have is unbelievably comfortable.
When did you finally get the bed?
I got the bed when my parents came up, when my family came up the first time, which was back, I think, probably a little over a month ago.
So you were on the air mattress for over a month?
Like 6 weeks.
Wow.
I think it was something like that.
Wow, dude. Oh my God. Holy
That's the thing,
mackerel! Holy crap!
you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta.
That's-
That was.
wow.
I mean, look, when I got this job, you're thinking of all different kinds of scenarios. There was a scenario that played out in my head where I thought that maybe I would have to live out of the hotel for a little while.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
here's
who
the thing:
knows?
the hotel, like, because when I was in Tokyo for 3 weeks, I was in a hotel. They put me in a hotel, and the hotel beds are not bad. As long as you get the right hotel, obviously. Like at least you're in a bed. Like for me, I don't mind sleeping on the air mattress for a couple nights. That's fine. But I give you massive props for doing that for like 6 weeks, because that is pretty crazy. But did you sleep okay? Did you sleep okay?
It was. I would wake up in the middle of the night. There were days where I would wake up maybe 3 or 4 times, but throughout the night. But I never thought oh, it's because of the air mattress. Because I would wake up and then I would just turn over and fall back asleep.
Right.
It wasn't like a bear or anything. I'm not tossing and turning 50 times in the night. But this bed, I got to tell, I mean, this bed is I swear it knocks you out. I mean, even this week, I would get in bed and I would want to listen to music or maybe watch a couple YouTube videos or something. And I would be knocked out.
Is it a Casper?
No, I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
I think it might have been Mattress Firm where I got this.
Because I have a Casper and I love my Casper.
Oh, but this bed, it's great. And I was talking with my parents. I'm like, oh, I'm sure that, I'll go home. I'll get in, when I go home for the first time, I'll get in my bed from back home and I'll just pass out, naturally. Sure enough, when I go home that first initial time a couple weeks ago, I lay down on my bed. That's the first thing I did because I was still tired from getting up early and stuff. So I wanted to take in half an hour and just lay down, just relax, unwind. And so I lay down on my bed and I come to the realization that my bed back home is not as comfortable as the bed up here in the apartment.
No, that's what happened to me because when I was in home, I used that bed for years and it got so worn out that when I got this, this mattress, the Casper, it was night and day. So then my parents ended up replacing the mattress at the house where I was, and got a new one because you notice the difference, man. You cannot cheap out on a mattress. You really can't because that bad mattress can really screw everything up. It really can. It screws up your days, your weeks, everything. Because if you're not sleeping,
depending on what you get, it could also mess up your back.
Yeah, dude, exactly. I mean, you can get I actually got something because of my old mattress. You get sore bones, literally on your side. Sometimes you get really achy and stuff like that. So so definitely do not cheap on a good mattress. So I'm glad you're finally comfortable, dude. I'm glad you're finally comfortable.
Thanks. Yeah, and that was the thing too. When I went. Because that was the thing too, and this was great too. Because we went that Saturday that my parents and my aunt came up, and we literally we went to the mattress place, and they had a mattress test. There was a medium softness, there was soft, and then there was a hard mattress. Hard mattress was immediately out.
Oh yeah, no, I can never do those either.
And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, I probably want a soft mattress. Sure enough, I didn't want a soft mattress either. The medium's and the guy said, that's where most people usually go is with the medium mattress.
Right, because I don't like it too soft, and most people don't, like you said. It's just, too soft is not good either because then you sink into the thing, and that's not good.
You make impressions in the bed.
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
Those soft beds
marks.
Probably don't pass the wine glass test where you see them on the commercials. They're hopping up and down the one side, the wine's spilling.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and then it was great too because the next day they brought the mattress. It was literally. I found the mattress I wanted that Saturday, and by Sunday night I was sleeping in that on that bed.
That's awesome, dude. Finally got the.
They had great shipping, and that was something that they didn't know about. They're like, we got to see, and fortunately enough, they were able to deliver this the next day. The couch that I got, that was the final thing. It was the thing I was most hyped about. I mean, I was hyped for the bed too, but the couch was like, the sofa chairs. I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing, we've reached adulting where I think a couch, bringing in a couch is like the most awesome thing in the apartment.
Oh, yeah.
But this couch was supposed to actually come the Saturday before the Super Bowl, and it was delayed a week because they were still making them. And I know it was disappointing because I'm like, oh, break this thing in for the Super Bowl. We got Chiefs versus 49ers. Let's go. I can lay down on my new sofa, and they delayed it a week.
Man. What were you sitting on to watch sports? Were you sitting on like a wooden chair?
I was sitting, well, from my vantage point, I can see my TV from my kitchen table. So I was sitting at the kitchen table, I had bought quite a bit of different snacks for the, I got like cheese crackers, bought some chips, the whole thing. Had spaghetti and meatballs for the main thing, but, I was watching the game, but that's the thing. Like I would bring a chair, one of the kitchen chairs over, and I'd put it in front of the TV, and I would watch it. Or if I wanted to stand, I'd walk over, or I'd sit down at the kitchen table, but it's, if I had to wait a long time, like there was a time where I thought I might blow up the air mattress and just put it in front of the TV, and I could lay down, and that could be my couch, like for the time until the actual one shows up.
Boy, that stinks, man. I forgot you didn't even have a sofa. It's like you had like no comfortable place to like sit.
Hopping back to the XFL. I mean, that's the XFL opening week was, me watching the DC Defenders first game.
Yeah.
That was the sofa breaking moment.
Yeah.
And I had gotten it literally a couple hours before the game too. So it really worked out.
Wow. So, but now your place is finally furnished. Was there anything else you wanted to add on that 2-week crunch? I think you kind of hit most of what you told me about, unless there was.
Well, I was currently, at the time I was working at a grocery store. I was working at a cafe within the grocery store. And that was something, because that's something that I respect all of my employers that I've ever worked for.
Oh yeah. You got it. You got it, man.
Whether there would be some arguments that we would ever have or something, or like I'd have a bad day or two at work or something, I always did my best to respect my bosses. And that was the thing. I had only worked at this grocery job because I had previously worked in a deli prior to that. I had worked there because that's what I graduated college in May of 2018. By late July of 2018, I got this job at a local deli. It's literally like a mile from my house. My mom had always gone in there, and it was her idea. She's like, "Oh, you should go in there and see if they need someone, you could get a job there, just as a source of income while I'm looking for the career job, the career breaking into job." And so, but anyway, long story short, I worked at this deli for like 15 months. And, there was just, I finally made the decision that I kind of wanted to move on from that job and get a job. And so I went from this deli near my house to this grocery store, sticking within the food business kind of, but the grocery industry. But then I got a job at this grocery store and I worked in the cafe. So it was kind of cool. I only ended up working there for like 6 weeks because then I found out I got, which is crazy. Life comes at you fast.
It does,
but
man.
I learned how to make pizzas from scratch.
I know.
It was literally
That's sick.
Get the dough right out of the fridge. We had this table, pulled it right out of the bag. You knead the dough. You form it onto this thing. You make sure you spray Pam or whatever to make sure everything's all set. But I was doing a ton of stuff. I was making whole pizzas for customers from scratch. I was cooking and seasoning rotisserie chickens. I made breakfast sandwiches and breakfast pizzas for the early morning rush. I got fish fries together on Fridays because we would do them Fridays and Wednesdays. So I would get fish fry dinners for people. A ton of different things. It was a cafe. They had different food. They had macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes. They would have like chicken dinners and stuff. They had the whole thing. They had a variety of different things that you could do. And, wings. there'd be pizza and wing dinners and stuff, and just everything. And so I learned how to deep fry wings and sauce them and stuff. They have the people who got the wings in the bowl with the sauces, and they could do the little flip in the air. You got the wings flip in the air. I learned how to do that.
Wow, man.
It was a cool thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was able to, that was the thing.
6-week boot camp.
Yeah, basically, but that was the thing. But getting back to my point, I always respected my employers. I wanted to make sure that I gave a 2-week notice. And so I did the best that I could in regards to, and that was another reason why I tried to push it back, and then, I didn't want to keep pushing. So it was going to be 2 weeks from exactly when I found out I got the job. So
you also had to go to your regular job when you're in the process of buying the car and getting the apartment?
No, because I worked on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and Black Friday. That's when I found out I got the job. I celebrated Thanksgiving. I worked Black Friday, I think, in the afternoon, but my boss had off that day. I think he took a personal day or something. Just, it's the day after Thanksgiving, he took some time off. So he wasn't there. And then I don't think he was there on the weekends. But I was able to talk. I ended up calling him, I think, because I just wasn't running into him during the day.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
When I was at the job. So I called him, and I left my resignation letter too. But I told him what was going on, and he understood the whole thing. And that Tuesday, so the Tuesday after I found out, after Thanksgiving was my last day there.
Okay.
So that it was a quick process,
Right.
it was so, but yeah, I wanted to make sure, I did the best I could to try to get 2 weeks, still give them a 2-week notice, but I didn't want to keep pushing my employer, to keep, moving the days. They needed me right away.
Yeah. Dude,
and so
you're about to start your career here. You got to kind of, I
give my boss at the cafe, complete credit for understanding.
Right.
It meant a lot that
just out of your control, and some things, like, people got to understand that things come up.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do, man. Gotta, because
as he said, he goes, oh, this is what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah, I got to, this is my big, the first break here. So
yeah, man. Now, kind of transitioning to kind of the whole broadcast aspect of things, right? How did you kind of find out that you wanted to do this for a career, and that you'd be willing to kind of do this really crazy move? And obviously you've told me, off air, that you love what you do and you're having a great time so far and you're learning a lot. But how did you kind of come to the conclusion that, you know what, I want to do this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to get to that point?
Now, do you want to know how I eventually wanted to get into media itself? Yeah,
exactly.
So this kind of goes into when I started loving sports too, because and we're talking, this probably started in 2007. So we're really rewinding back.
Yeah. The
so
2007 Cleveland Cavaliers, dude, one of my favorite teams.
But yeah,
because that team was so bad. It was just LeBron and a bunch of jabronis.
It was 2000, 2006, 2007. That was the last time the Buffalo Sabres were really good, one of the top teams in the league. And that was the team. I give that team so much credit. First of all, I mean, we weren't able to win the Stanley Cup, but they came together as a team. We had a couple top guys, we had a few top guys, but we had a lot of talent on that team. The entire team was super talented. We had guys on on the third line that probably could have been on the second line for most teams in the NHL. We were that stacked. And the cards just fell that way. It just ended up working out that way, because a lot of the guys, I think, were homegrown from guys we drafted and stuff in the past. But following that team, it was just super, super exciting. And I remember watching games and just being oh, it's super exciting. The back and forth action, the skating back and forth, and, people aren't really, a team could be up 3 goals but they're never out of the game, because they could easily blow that 3-goal lead. I loved the fast paced action that came with it, and just some cool ways that players could score goals. But the 06-07 Sabres for me were so good, and it brought the community together. And I loved that aspect of like it brought the whole city of Buffalo together. Like I went to playoff games and they were showing people outside of the arena, and they were down the street. I mean, there were thousands of people, and it was just
those shots because Toronto had a similar thing. You know, when
it brings the
Raptors,
community together. And it's so awesome. Yeah, like the Raptors, you know, that the whole city gathered together as one and you know, helped, you know, push their team on that run that they went on, you know, to win that NBA championship. You know, it's just and it's cool. Like there's something so spectacular about that. But that's what got me into sports. Now, one thing that I found that I loved doing was talking about it. I would love to talk about sports. Like my uncle used to play hockey, so I would talk to him about the Sabres or what was going on in the NHL. And I eventually, you know, I made friends with people, you know, in school or whatever. And it was the same thing. I always loved talking about hockey. And then eventually I got into football. And, you know, I was able to get into other sports, and I just gained this passion for talking about sports. Giving you, I know we were going to bring some Oswego stories into the mix.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. But yeah, tell what you're going to say now.
Well, this one does have to do with this though,
right? Because it's relevant.
Me and Dan Ryans, who is a very awesome guy.
He is. He's a legend. If Dan Ryans is listening, shout out to Dan Ryans. He is a excellent guy.
How's it going, man? Hope you're doing well. And yeah, but we were roommates for like 2 years there, and he was the best roommate. I mean,
all you guys did was watch sports.
Roommate.
It was amazing.
And that's the joke that I would tell people, because people would be like, "Oh, what's Dan like as a roommate?" And one thing that I would always say is SportsCenter is on one of our TVs all the time, because we both had TVs.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, he's great. He's great. He is like the nicest person.
Oh, easily one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, he'll go out of his way to really help you out when you need it.
And he did a lot for the TV station back in Oswego too.
He did. He did.
He always volunteered and everything. He's great. Yeah, and you know, and he's a great person. He's a great friend, and he was a great roommate. So one thing that Dan and I always loved to do is we would go on walks around campus. And I don't know if I ever told you about these walks that we would do.
I'm sure you mentioned them before. It sounds familiar.
Because one thing that we did was we lived in either Seneca or actually no, it was only Seneca when I was with him. But we would leave Seneca and we would literally walk around the entire campus. And walking around the entire campus would take us about an hour.
Oh yeah.
And we would just talk. And there were days where it would be like a Friday or a Saturday where if we were down for a walk, we would go for 2 hours or longer. We would walk half of campus and then go off campus, and we would go downtown to where like there's the clubs and stuff like that. There's McDonald's. We would eat McDonald's at like 1 a.m. you know, those are great stories. I miss moments like that, you know, back in college. But we would go to McDonald's or whatever, or, you know, we would go wherever we would want to go. And then we would eventually, by the time we would get to like where the bridge would be, you know, where there was like the, you know, the water and stuff like that.
Yep.
We would turn around and then we would come back and then we'd do the other half of campus. So we would be gone like 2 hours, like at the minimum, when we would do that on the weekends.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were doing, there was one time that we did, I think it was an hour walk around campus, and we were heading back to our dorm, and we talked to this one guy. He was, I think I was wearing some kind of hockey shirt, and this guy basically like made a comment about like the Islanders or something like that. And so like we were talking Islanders, and I mentioned I was a Sabres fan, so we talked a little Sabres, and we were just talking about hockey in general. We literally, the time flew by. Me, Dan, and this guy were talking for like we ended up talking for like an hour, maybe a little over an hour with this guy.
And he was just a random dude.
This is a random guy. Like, this is the first time I was meeting him.
Wow.
And I mean, and I remember, and the time flew, because I remember me and Dan looking at each other after we were done. Like we talked to that guy for like an hour, you know. And I told Dan in the elevator on the way up to our dorm, I said, if I could do this for a living, I will never work a day in my life. And I know it's super cliche to say something like that, but it was true because that time flew by so much and I had so much fun.
Oh,
And I'm so passionate. Like it's such a passion of mine to talk about sports. And like that if I could make money talking about sports in some capacity, that's the dream for me. Like that's the dream job for me. And so, but one thing that I learned in college was, you got to get your foot in the door. You got to do other things that, besides just being on air. Like I had my TV shows at WTOP 10 that I was on. But at the same time, I was always, and I would be on the Hockey Night in Oswego broadcasts, but there were also days where, I was running audio or, there were even days there were a couple of hockey games that I produced. I was a producer for a couple games.
Yeah, man, you did everything. You didn't just limit yourself to one thing. And I think that's good advice to take. Is that one thing that you do very well that really not everyone does in life in general is that they kind of limit themselves to one thing. But what's so awesome about, I think, how you are in the position you are now is because you learned how to do so much different stuff when you were there, and you took advantage of all the opportunities that were given to you. And you didn't say, even though you did, you were an anchor and a reporter and a talent on the biggest games of the year. You also said, I'm going to do technical positions as well because I need to know how to do that. And I think that is great. And I really wish, and I hope more people do the same, no matter what field they're in, because you never know when you're going to need to know how to do those things like you are doing right now.
This is pretty much a PSA for that.
Yeah, PSA.
And look, I know you're giving me credit for doing this, but I was guilty of not doing this when I first got to Oswego because my first year, which I was at Oswego for 3 years because I was at a different college my freshman year. But when I went to Oswego my sophomore year, so you weren't there yet.
I was not. No, I came. I was in community college for 3 semesters and then graduated from there and then went to Oswego.
I just did on-air stuff that first thing. And that was something that I didn't grasp in my mind because in my head, I'm like, oh, well, I want to be on air, eventually. So let me just do on air. But and that's something that I wish that if I could go back in time and tell myself anything, that is something that I would tell myself. And that's if there's any current Oswego students that are listening to this
or
any current college students. College people in general. Take advantage of the opportunities that you have. Don't wait because I waited, until I was a junior and more so senior year before I started doing like technical stuff, behind the scenes stuff, like running audio or doing teleprompter or, technical directing. I waited. I kind of did some of this stuff. I was a camera person. I started doing this stuff junior year, but you can't wait that long. It worked out for me, but you need to make that leap. Don't be nervous about, oh geez, well, I'm afraid, because that was something that always would go through my head, like, oh geez, like I hope, like I don't, if I look bad doing this, or if this goes wrong, I don't want them to think, like I don't want to give people a bad impression. Fight those urges, go for it,
right?
Because
the time to make mistakes
makes such
is
a difference.
The time to make mistakes is before you get to your career. Make mistakes when you're in college. That goes for anything. Before, there's real consequences that can happen from it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to make mistakes and take advantage of everything. Because if you want to be on air, also go get off-air experience, because what's the extra knowledge going to hurt? It's not going to hurt anything by you being able to be a TD or, to do these different. I'm trying to think of what was the position again when we would cut to commercials. I'm trying to remember that. Was it MCO?
Tape operator, master control
guy?
That?
Was it called MCO?
Well, we called it master control operator, but really it's just a playback operator.
Yeah, and even replay. You need, it doesn't hurt to have all these experience things, because when you have a resume and you're sending this to employers after you're out of college, or even for internships when you're in college, and that's another thing you need to take advantage of is internships. Do as many internships as you possibly can, because it's all hands-on. Some of this is hands-on experience that looks good when you finally go for the job, because then you can say, hey, look, I've done this already. I did this in college. And that was something that was so great about having a student-run TV station on campus and a student-run radio station. You were able to get that hands-on experience. So when you graduate, this was the whole point of having these, but you graduate and you can go and say, oh yeah, you need a guy doing teleprompter. I did that. Or you need a guy who could do replay highlights for soccer games or something. Yeah, I did that when I was in college, or I did this at my internship. You have all these different things, different knowledge-based things that you can put on a resume. And so when an employer looks at candidates and says, well, this guy has this, but I'm looking for this, you have every possible thing that you could have for experience, where you make it impossible for them to deny you the position. Unless, of course, they have 5 people with the same qualifications, and then you have to only pick one. But you need to make things for those employers as hard as possible.
Right. Yeah, and doing
for them to say no.
Doing stuff out of the classroom, doing stuff on your own personal time, all those things definitely factor into you, having a great chance to land that position, like what happened to you in Virginia, dude.
Internships are so crucial. Like I can't stress that enough, because I feel like there's been some people who I've talked to in the past where it's like, oh yeah, I haven't done the internship yet. You got to do it. Like, I had 2 internships in between my sophomore year and junior year of college. And I tried to get another one in between junior and senior year, and it didn't end up happening. But always try to get more experience, always try to extend yourself, try to shoot for the stars. Go send your application in to someone at a big network. Why not you? Throw your hat in the ring.
Kind of going off that though, one of the things that I say personally is, in terms of the whole internship thing, is also look locally. A lot of times, like our school had internships that you can apply through the school, and you're still getting real world experience doing, working with the media department on campus, or, if you were going to be like, whatever, like, research assistant for a science program or something like that. We have those, and a lot of schools have those as well. So, because it could be really hard finding a big corporate, large internship. And while I agree, absolutely, you should apply for them, don't be discouraged if you don't get them, because there's a lot of opportunities locally within your school and maybe just around your neighborhood that you can apply for as well.
Oh, of course. I don't shy away from a big corporation, but definitely just throw your hat in all the rings.
Yeah, exactly.
Locally, nationally. Like if in your head, if you're debating whether or not you should send your application into a company, just do it. To quote Nike, just do it.
We are not sponsored, by the way, from them.
We are not. I was going to say that. We're not sponsored by Nike.
Although we are open to sponsors. We are currently not sponsored by them. That's good advice, man. That's good advice.
Just do it. Do as much as you possibly can, because the more you can throw that you can slap on a resume, the better off you're going to be.
Exactly.
And the more comfortable you're going, and honestly, the more comfortable you're going to be going into a job, because if you find that first of all, you're dipping your toe in different aspects of the broadcasting side, both on and off air. And it's like, okay, well, I really like doing replay. Well, then you learn how to do replay. Maybe you find some replay internships or something like that. And, when the time finally comes that you're able to get a job for replay, you can say, first of all, you found out that you're passionate about doing replay. You found that out by doing these things, by dipping your toe in different aspects, scratching the surface, seeing I really liked doing graphics, or I really liked doing replay. Then you know what direction you want to go into. Then you go for the internships. And then, you gain all this experience where you can go to the company that you want to get hired for. And if you get that interview and they ask, well, why should we hire you? Where you can say, because I've done this before and I'm super passionate about it. And look at all of these replay examples that I've done, all these different jobs that I did, these internships that I did, the hands-on experience I got on campus. And here are 3 references that I gained from my time doing these internships and from professors on campus or whoever those references are. And you're all set. Like, obviously, there's some factors, other factors that could be in there why you don't get a job. But you're making it a lot harder for them to turn you down that way.
Right.
And then eventually someone won't.
And then the whole thing too is that I always say, especially, is that not everyone can get something quickly, and don't be discouraged that you don't get something quickly, because that's what I was telling you. Remember when you were you were kind of getting a little down in the dumps, if you don't mind me saying. You're getting a little sad,
true.
but I said, Nate, I said, you just got to keep going, dude. And it's like that for a lot of people I talk to. It's just like, your skill set. I know you're talented. A lot of other people know you're talented. You can do this. Just give it time, and it will happen. Because what I always say is, you have your whole life to work. And if you're out of school, for even if it's a year, think about it. What would you be like? Let's just say average like 22, 23. You'll be working till you're 65, hopefully, but 70 plus. So, like, you have your whole life to work. And if maybe you get your first job and you think you're going to like it, but you end up not, and you want to change kind of directions of your career, that's totally fine. And that's so normal. Like, there's stuff that I have done for my job. I'm not going to get into it really, but part of what I did was they kind of set me up in trying different things to see what I like. And there are times I flat out say, I don't like doing this. I'd much rather be doing this and say, okay, now we know where to kind of point you in the direction to do this instead of that. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be honest. If you get a job and you say, you know what, I actually don't like doing this. I'd much rather do this. Is it possible to make that happen? And a lot of times they'll work with you to get that happen, because they don't want someone who is just miserable coming in to work, no matter what career path it's in, that's just so miserable to work and being like hating what they do, because that just makes it, harder to get stuff done, because you have a guy who's complaining and moping around, and it's just bad, work practice.
It's bad when you don't like what you do.
Right.
Because you got to love what you do, because you're going to be doing it for a long time.
Exactly. You got to want to be able to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to work, which is, again, if you like it so much, it hopefully shouldn't feel like work. I mean, obviously there's days where it will, just straight up, there will days, but most of the time you should say, I'm excited to be doing this, because you're spending, 8+ hours a day at this place. And if you don't like that, that's really bad. That's really, really bad. And there's a study that came out that I think only like 30%, I don't know the whole study on the head, but it's like only 30% of like all Americans like what they do. And obviously it's hard to find a job that you really like to do sometimes. And sometimes you're in a situation where it's hard to move on from it. But like when you're getting out of school, you got to make sure that you really like what you do, and you really want to try to make it the best situation that it can be while you still have the room to change it.
And sometimes that can take a little bit to figure out, because like,
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking the time to figure it out.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great that people are able to do this. That okay, well, graduating from college, I thought I was going to be doing this, and then it turns out, well, I don't really like doing that, so I'm going to try to get into this. Look, I just got this job. I've only been down here for, it'll be coming on 3 months now, but I've already kind of thought I've had the thought process start about, well, what do I want to do after this? Because there's different avenues that I can take. And it's something that I'm thinking about, but it's something that I don't know what I want to do yet, because there are different things that I want to do. One thing that I haven't mentioned, that hasn't been brought up on this episode yet, I technically have 2 jobs. The other job that I do is I am a beat writer for the Philadelphia Flyers on this website called the Hockey Writers. And that's another thing. We talk about things you're passionate about and the cliche, well, I never want to, work another, I wouldn't work a day in my life if I did this. I love writing these articles. I will work at the station during the week, and on my weekends, I will write an article about the Flyers. There's a certain aspect of the team that I want to talk about. There's a certain player. If a player reaches a milestone, I want to talk about that. If there's a trade deadline acquisition, that was my most recent article that I wrote about. We talk about that. There's different avenues. There's different articles that I can write about, and I love talking about it. And I love every aspect of writing one of those articles about the Flyers because it's about hockey, and hockey is my favorite sport. But there's also the aspect, I just have fun doing the entire thing because I will picking the article, finding, coming up with article ideas. I'm excited when I do that. I'm excited to do research. We do different. I'm able to, I do some research. I look up different articles that go with the story, and I provide them in there for some more context for the reader if they want to dive more into a separate topic. The whole process is fun. You pick out the pictures you want to include in the article. It's so much fun, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on my articles, and I just love doing them, and I love that I get, and look, I get paid too. That's fun too. Who's not going to turn money down?
Getting a paycheck is always fun, of course. That's getting money to spend is always a great time. But yeah, exactly.
I'm getting a few thousand people to read these articles, and that part is so that part's cool too. That it's cool that I'm getting people are seeing them. It's getting eyes are getting on the pages, but the whole process of doing it is just so exciting for me, and I'm passionate about doing it, and it's here we're throwing cliches left and right on this podcast, but it's well, I totally forgot the cliche off the top of my head.
No cliche for you guys because Nate forgot it.
no, I forgot, but no, but I have so much fun writing these, and and like I said, that's the greatest satisfaction that I get out of it is just being able to, be creative and, okay, well, I want to write about the Flyers on this angle, or I want to talk about this player. And I dive into their histories, for maybe people who don't know their backgrounds. And I just have so much fun telling different stories. And, there's some people who comment on Facebook, about different parts of their side of it, as Flyer fans, they'll read the articles on Facebook and they'll add their own personal comment. Someone quoted Bill Parcells, I think, in one of my first articles, and I thought that was the coolest thing. We're getting a Bill Parcells quote, even though it's a different sport. I just thought the whole thing was so cool, and the entire process is cool. But getting back to the main point, if I'm able to, I might potentially want to do a writing gig down the line. I might want to be a sports writer one day. Obviously I went to school for broadcasting, but I might want to take a writing gig down the line. There's a possibility that I might want to change. I mean, it's still media, but I might want to change what I do from broadcasting, doing the broadcasting thing, maybe the idea of being on air, to maybe I do want to write, for a newspaper or who knows what the future holds. That's the thing. But you start, even now that I've just accepted this job and I'm a few months in, I'm already thinking okay, well, do I want to do writing because I do like doing this Flyers writing gig? Do I want to go further? I like both jobs, don't get me wrong, I like both jobs that I do, but and I'm hoping that these both can get me to that next step, because it's a process of working your way up. But that's the thing, you have all these different ideas in your head because there's different avenues you can take. to get to the next step of your career, the next stage. And it's, okay, well, where do I want to go? And do I want to go the writing gig side? Do I want to go broadcasting still? Do I want to do radio? I can throw radio in there. Who knows? That's where the contemplation comes in. And that's going back to how me saying that I like that people get to pick, because there are people that graduate and then they sour on what they majored in and they want to do something else. I think that's cool obviously you want to find what you want to do, but I think that's cool that, people are able to adapt, and they're able to say, okay, well, I don't want this, so I'm going to go for this now. That they have that time that they can switch what they want to do in their life. As you said, life, you got all this time to work, that if you can change things up. I just think that's awesome that people are able to change their minds and have enough time to make that full transition and eventually do something that they're super passionate about.
Me too, man. That was really, really, really well said. And I don't think I could have said it any better. As we get close to wrapping this up, we wrap it up in about like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
We do have I do want to end it on a couple funny stories that I know you have from our days in school, because obviously we hung out a lot together at school. And
there's so many. They're all classic, and they're all great.
They're all classic. And again, they're all great. But I think one of the funniest stories we have to mention is when our good buddy Rifkin fell asleep during class, and you wanted me to wake him up, and I didn't, and because remember you so I'm gonna say the story, because now you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we were in this one class, which we cannot say, due to we just don't want to say it. Okay, so we're in this one class, and we're in the front row. Keep in mind, we're in the front row. It's a pretty small class, maybe like 20 people or so. And our friend had trouble sleeping during school because the beds in school were crap. So he was really tired, and this one class was super boring. So he would tend to fall asleep during class. And there was one day where he fell asleep and he was snoring really loud. You remember this?
Oh yeah.
He was snoring so loud, and the teacher kept looking at him and giving him this look like, dude, what's going on? And it was like really loud. It was like
did this multiple times too.
Multiple times. And you kept poking me, and you're like, dude, you wake him up. And I said,
dude, nudge him.
And I'm like, I'm not waking him up. And you looked at me, and you're like, dude, wake him up. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not waking up, man. He's tired. Look at him. And he was just dead ass asleep.
Because she would always talk when he was snoring. She was kind of doing her lesson, and she would talk to the class. And I swear I was waiting for one of those days to happen because there were times where she would pause. Yeah. And there'd just be a gap where it was completely silent. But he would always wake up when that would happen. He would always pick his head up. I was waiting for the one day because he would always snore while she was talking, and then there'd be silence, and he would poke it. I was waiting for the day where there would be the pause, and then you would just hear the snore, because that everyone, because it would just be silence, and all of a sudden you'd hear the snore, and it's just, I wanted to do whatever I could to make sure that he wouldn't, get caught snoring in class, especially.
You literally
especially, if it was silent.
You got up out of your seat because I wouldn't do it, and you hit him. You told him dude, wake up, and he was he woke up in a shock. He was like, what the hell? What just happened? And we had to tell him after class, dude, you fell asleep. And she was looking at you, and he just did not care. He was like, oh, okay. And he kept doing it, but
he wasn't too fond of that class.
The best though, after he was just like, Nate, why'd you wake me up? Why couldn't you be like Justin and let me sleep? And I'm like, yeah. And we were jokingly, of course, but we were pretending to be mad at you because you woke him up trying to not get him in trouble.
I just remember like doing work for that class, and me, and Rifkin would go up to the one lounge up in Moreland,
Oh yeah,
and the second floor, and we would have, I think it'd be a Sunday too, because the assignment would be due, I think, that Monday.
Yep, we did it Sundays and Saturdays. Yeah,
we did it. Yeah, we would do it. We would hang out up there at the table. There wouldn't be like anybody around. We would throw like a football game on if it was a Sunday on TV, and we'd be watching some football while we were doing homework.
Yep.
And I just remember there were certain days where I would just be like, "Yeah, do you understand what we have to write about?"
And I'm like, not really. None of us really understood it, but
different angles of it we're trying to like figure out.
Yeah.
But I want to tell one more part involving that class because well, actually two parts, because when we were studying for the final, you recorded her classes.
I did, yes, because she let us record her classes.
And so we went up to the Moreland second floor lounge, and we were all sitting there on like the seats and the couches and stuff. And so you were playing back the audio, and he was falling asleep to the audio.
He fell asleep when I started the recording because we didn't understand a certain topic. So I said, all right, guys, because I had the Surface. So I was like, all right, guys, it tells me when I took this note, when the audio clip was. I'm going to play it back. I started playing it back, and Rifkin, he fell asleep because of the recording.
He fell asleep. And
as
look,
soon as it started.
I mean, if you fall asleep during class, I can kind of understand that. But dude, we're sitting in the lounge, like just listening to the audio.
I know.
You know,
my God.
and he still falls asleep. You know, and you know, look, I did like the class. You know, it wasn't bad.
I'm glad at least you liked it.
I still remember. I think
not.
it was that because that was a fall semester. It was the fall semester. I had one more semester to go, and I just remember being on winter break, and it was around the time that we found out our grades for the previous semester in the fall.
Out, yeah.
And you checked ratemyprofessor.com.
Oh yes.
And you sent me the review.
Oh my God! Remember that?
I remember.
Oh my God!
Hanging out. I remember hanging out in the mall with my friends back home in Buffalo. We were at like a restaurant, and you send me that, and I just read. You sent me the screenshot. You could tell the story, but I just remember laughing like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, I gotta look up when we finish the podcast. I have to look up that review and see it's still there because I forgot exactly what it said. But it was something.
From what I remember, someone took it down.
They took it down. I think. Yeah, I'm sure I have a picture. I'm sure I have a picture.
You do. You have you sent me the screenshot of it.
Did you save it? Did you save it?
Oh,
I hope, dude. I hope I still have it. I'm sure I do.
I'll look.
After the episode. I'll check. But it was something along the lines like if you take this class, like prepare to be in hell or something like that. Like
no. The classic line was don't let the next victim be you.
Don't let the next victim be you.
And I'm just like, geez, right. Man, relax. Right. Like this was a class. You made it sound like. The hash slinging slasher. Don't let the next victim be you. No, it was a class we took. You know, hold on, let me look because I'm looking to make sure because I had my phone off during the. I
had my phone off. I had mine off too, but oh my God, yeah, we'll do another episode just on college stories. We'll bring in Rifkin. And we'll do another episode because this one's getting pretty long. But there was a lot of great stuff in here, and I want to thank you so much, Nate, for coming on, because I think a lot of people are going to learn something from this, and I think a lot of people are going to hear your story about the move and be like, wow, like that was really impressive. And if some people are afraid to move, when they get their first job or going to school or whatever, but I think a lot of people are going to hear that story and be like, if that guy can move to hours away from home, drive wise, I can do it, and I can do anything.
And it was tough too. I mean, that first, I moved. We packed everything and moved down. I think 2 days before I was going to start my job. Because the day before my job, we were going to look at apartments, and I just remember we had stopped to get fast food, I think in Virginia, like at a McDonald's or something. And I just remember sitting at the table, like oh my God, like, like it's finally hitting me, and I'm getting like sad because like I'm leaving everybody in Buffalo. I'm leaving behind family, I'm leaving behind friends, and you're not really leaving them behind. I still talk to my friends and family like pretty much every day.
Of course,
It's
but
not
it's
like,
different.
but it's different, and it's, and I remember my parents being like, well, it's like college, but and it is, but there's an aspect of it too where it's like, yeah, well, there's, but with college, there's a sort of stability that's there with college that's not there when you're, in an apartment and you have a job. And yes, there's stability in the job, but outside of the job, there's not as much stability. You have to provide your own stability. And like I had help with that. I had family, I had friends, that helped make that. I mean, look, the first day I was down here by myself, my parents left and they went home. They took the 7-hour drive back. And I called friends up, I called family up, because I felt like alone.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
no,
that
I
classic,
did too,
and
man. I did too.
and it happened in college, and it happened in college too, because when I was at St. Bonaventure my first year, I remember my parents leaving and me just sitting on my bed like, that's it, like what's happening,
Right.
and and it's another level when you move. But I just want to say this before we wrap up. It's not, I mean, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like there were days, and look, there's still days where I'm homesick and I miss family and I miss friends. That's going to happen. It's going to happen every once in a while. I mean, look, I went home 2 weekends ago and visited family and friends. And literally I was there for like a day, and then I took a flight back. And literally that Sunday, like I remember like the second the cab dropped me off of my apartment and I walked into my apartment, I'm like, well, that's over,
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah.
like what the heck, But so, and I felt homesick then, right after I was home. It was like you get a little bit of a taste of being home again, and then it's gone, and then you have to wait a few months. But it gets easier,
It
and
does. Yep.
it helps. I look again. I'm going to give credit to my parents and my family. My aunt. Give credit to my aunt, because whenever like I'm having a bad day or something, like she's my go-to. Like I can call her and I can talk to her, and it's always great to have a person that you can talk to when you're having a bad day, because it helps. Talking things out makes things you feel so much better when you're able to do that. You like have a person that you're able to talk to, and I have friends that I'm their go-to person when they're going through stuff, and I love being that person for them. I love helping I love helping people make like I'm trying to talk.
It's all good, man.
The words, I'm trying to help people like I love being able to help people feel better. I love being able to help them feel better, and it's the same way. And my aunt, like if I have a bad day at work, my aunt, I can call my aunt up when I'm on break, and we'll talk for a little while, and she's able to, help me feel better about, whatever I'm going through, whether it's, it's at the job or, it's something else that, I'm dealing with, here. But, it's always cool to have someone like that to talk to and to help you get through those things. She helped me deal with the emotional stages of going through this. So did my friends, and so did my parents. My parents and my aunt and just my family and friends in general, they helped me out so much. My family with the move, and them, and my friends helping me with the emotional stages of, like, oh geez, maybe this was not that it was a mistake, but it's like, oh geez, I'm in this new place. My dad told me this, that your brain can only handle so much change at a time. Like, I think he said you can handle like basically like he might have read this, but you can handle like two changes at a time. And any more changes other than two of them, and your brain goes into overload. And that's what I was experiencing when I moved down here, because I got a new car, I was getting a new apartment, I was starting a new job. That's already more than two right there. And that you have to deal with getting to work, you have to deal with meeting new people. Fortunately enough, I had a couple friends from high school that moved down here. So, and I've only hung out with them like once, but like with one of them once, but like there's still some familiarity there, and you just do what you can. It's a learning process. and you make friends at work, and you're able to find out different restaurants to go to through friends, and you do a little exploring on yourself. I did that today. I ended up exploring a little bit of Alexandria, Virginia, and it's, there were some neat, nice little old shops there and stuff, but trying to reel it back in from the 10th tangent on this podcast. But just there are going to be days where you're homesick. There's days where you're going to miss family. There's days you're going to miss friends, and you're going to have bad days. But always, if you could be that person for somebody else, I think that's awesome. And I try to be that for whoever needs it. And, if you have a person like that who's willing to be there for you and willing to talk to you through your problems, take advantage of that. Don't feel like you got to keep that bottled up or anything like that. If you're going through something, even just talking it out, it obviously helps finding a solution, but even if you're able to just talk it out, sometimes just airing your grievances sometimes is a weight off your shoulders in itself. And people shouldn't be afraid to do that. And to be able to just talk to somebody if they're going through any kind of issues or something like that. And then that's what I did. I'm not afraid to admit it or to do that. My aunt's there for me and I talk to her, my parents are there, but and my friends, and so, I want to give credit to my family for helping me move and for emotional support. Same thing with my friends, with the emotional support and everything, and just everybody who supported me and helped me through this entire thing, because it was a 1.5-year process to get from graduation to this job. And then like we preached this entire podcast, it was a 2-week move. There's a lot that's got to go on, and if I did this myself, I would have been running around in circles like a chicken with its head cut off. I would have been driving myself nuts. I was able to have family and friends help me through this, and I'm forever grateful for them being there, for them always being there for me, but for them specifically being there with me through this lifestyle change.
Well said, dude. Well said, because I feel the same way when it comes to my move and my even though my move wasn't nearly as crazy as yours, I still moved to a different state as well, and still a lot to handle as well. But Nate, thank you for that final awesome note, that great piece of advice.
One more thing. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to. Sorry, I know we're like way overboard.
It's all right, dude. It's all right.
I also I want to do a shout out. I don't know if she's going to be listening to this podcast or not, but I have a dear friend of mine who I'm praying for. I found out that she's going through cancer, and so I'm praying for her like every day, and like I'm not going to say her name, but I don't know if she's going to be listening to this or not. I'll be sure to, when this comes out, to tell her about it. But I'm not going to name her, but I just want, I'm praying for you, and I wanted to give her a shout out a little bit, and that I'm praying for her, and that that I'm hoping that she's able to she's very courageous. I'm hoping that she's able to fight through this and beat cancer.
Yep. I hope so too, man.
Now, I don't want to end this on a bad,
a
sad note or anything, or on a more serious.
It's something you had to say, and I'm right there with you, man. Hopefully.
So I'm praying for her that she gets better.
I hope the best as well, of course. Any other final notes, Nate?
No, I think that's gonna do it. I mean, I appreciate you again having me on. It's an honor to be on your podcast, and the fact that this was even the debut episode too. The first episode. I'm glad that I was able to be the first guest on here.
Absolutely, dude. Because your story was so epic. I had to get you on for the first one, because the format of the show, as we move on and as we do more episodes and get more guests on, it will most likely change, I'm sure. But for this first episode, I wanted to have you really go in depth on your story, and that final bit of advice you gave at the end was.
And by all
fantastic.
means, man, I think we really knocked this one out of the park. I mean, we'll have the people decide.
Have the people decide. I think this was a great episode. People are going to learn something.
Yeah, and by all means,
there's definitely some good laughs to hear.
when you want me to come on next time, you mentioned you, me, and Rifkin. You know, maybe we can get that thing
Furness,
going.
Dude, I want to get Furness on as well.
Absolutely.
He said he's down.
We need to have we need to have an episode dedicated to just college stories.
Oh
like
my God,
said.
we are because I get that request all the time actually from people when I found out I did this podcast. They're like, "Are you going to talk about this story?" Because I've told stories before to them, but like, "Are you going to recap this story? Are you going to recap that story?" So we are going to do an episode, and if it might have to be multiple parts if it goes on a long time.
Yeah.
But yes,
that'll be its own little
gotta
saga.
do that because there are some legendary stories that we all have that need to be shared. So Nate Moser, thank you so much for coming on the episode, dude. And I wish nothing but the best to your friend battling cancer, as well as your family and your friends in all good health. So everyone,
same to you. Same to you.
I appreciate that, dude.
Your family and your friends as well. I wish the best for you, your family, and your friends as well.
Thank you, dude. So, everyone, thank you so much for listening to the premiere episode of the Generation Zen Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at GenerationZen_ because someone took at Generation Zen and they haven't posted since 2010. So, unfortunately, I had to add that underscore.
You gotta buy that Twitter off of them.
I know. Like, I don't know how
you are the official Generation Zen now.
I know, dude. Hopefully we get the check mark soon. So
there's a 10-year drought there. Okay, after 10 years, you need to forfeit that. Twitter account. There needs to be a Twitter law.
I know. Give us the account after. So anyway, there's an underscore in there, and we'll have all kinds of contact information in the description as well. And thank you everyone so much for listening to the premiere episode of the Generation Zen Podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Later, folks. Nate, say bye.
See you later, guys.
Okay, bye. Bye.